Welcome to Or Something Like That,
the podcast where you can talk shit with your besties.
We're your hosts, Sam
and Hollis. Be sure to follow us on social and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode.
And if you love us, give us that 5-star review.
One, two, three, four.
Hey, hello.
We're back.
We back. Regular episode.
Woo!
We're just talking about stuff today, right?
Yeah.
Great intro. God, I'm just crushing it.
Absolutely riveting content. Ladies. I will say that I have reached a whole new level of hating the power going out as a parent.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That must be, oof. Like, what do you do with your children? Like,
Literally
how do you entertain them in the dark? Yeah. Do you, like, make up games by candlelight?
If I was a better mom, maybe.
What? Your husband doesn't have candlelight games? That seems like right up his alley.
I know he's foraging in the woods for mushrooms, you know? So, yeah, no, this most recent time, it was more like unique timing too, because I had put my youngest to bed, which was good, I suppose. And I was about to get my 5-year-old a snack, and she was going to watch a little bit of TV and then go to bed. And the power goes out, and it's like,
was it storming?
Yeah. Yes. And it's just one of those things where it's like, now I have to do the whole like bedtime routine, like try to get her to go to bed, because it was pretty close to her bedtime. I mean, I can't remember what we had been doing that day. But I feel like my youngest even went down a little bit later than usual. And it was like, okay, you can have a snack and watch like 15 minutes of your show, and then it's bedtime, you know? But then there was something about the power going out that like got her all riled up, you know?
Oh, yeah. I do remember that when I was a kid. It was exciting.
Oh, my gosh. And then, of course, it's like you don't know how long the power is going to be out. So it's like, do I risk opening the refrigerator and letting all of the cold air out because she wanted a snack? And it was just a whole thing.
How long was the power out?
About 2 hours.
Yeah, just long enough.
Just long enough for it to be annoying. And I did, you know, and it's like I finally got her to bed, and she just like kept coming out and coming out and coming out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it's just like, oh my God.
Go to bed.
Yeah. It's just like, oh.
That doesn't sound fun.
Yeah. And then there have been like some critical times of the power going out, and it's like, how am I going to feed them? Where I'm like, oh shit, like what do I have, chips?
Right.
You know, like what's in here that that doesn't require refrigeration or electricity to cook?
Yeah, I think that I don't have hardly any shelf stable food in my house.
Yeah.
You know, as a single person.
I mean, we have some, but it has to be at least heated
Heated.
up.
Yeah.
Or cooked in some manner. There was one year where the power went out on Christmas at my parents' house, and we did cook crab legs on the propane grill.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we were like,
power went out on Christmas? That sucks.
Yeah, it did. It wasn't great.
It wasn't the best Christmas.
It wasn't the best one we've had. Yeah. So anyway, that could have been a gripe, I guess, but it's just power going out when you have young children is annoying.
Not for us.
It's not for me. Because when you're an adult, it's just like, whatever. I used to just read my book with a flashlight, and like, you can just eat whatever. It doesn't matter. Or it's like, so what if you're like, don't eat dinner? But with kids, it's just not that way. Like, they have to be fed. They have, you know, it's like they're not great when their routine is not normal. It's
right.
Like they get all crazy.
Yeah,
so.
routine's very important. So I hear to children.
So anyway.
Well, nice. I did something fun. I went to a Trombone Shorty concert recently.
I'm sorry. Say that again, because all I heard was Trombone Shorty.
I was sorry.
I'm like, what?
I did something fun recently. I went to see Trombone Shorty.
Trombone Shorty?
Yeah. It was so good. So Trombone Shorty is like a New Orleans musician. He's kind of a living legend there. He's been playing trombone since he was 5.
Wow.
He plays trumpet too. But man, it was so good. Tank and the Bangas opened, and they're a New Orleans act too.
I'm sorry, what?
Tank and the Bangas, like bangers.
Got it.
Yeah,
And
they're
like Tank of bangas, what?
Yeah. And they're very high energy, and she's very commanding on stage, and you're like, well, that's going to be hard to top. And then they came on and just blew the roof off the place. Like, everybody was standing. I went with my parents, like my mom and dad, where everybody was dancing.
Sounds very Sheila coded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my mom was the one who was like, who bought the tickets. And
Right.
was like, do you want to go see Trombone Shorty? And I was like, hell yeah. I mean, I'd seen him a couple times in New Orleans, but, you know, I didn't really know he did big tours like that and traveled around.
It's giving, you love Lady Mamba and the, what?
From Mean Girls and the Black Manzambos or whatever. Very much. But yeah, he does do a lot of like New Orleans classic songs, but he's been a recording artist for a long time, so he has a lot of his own hits. But it's just like so impressive to watch people who are not just good musicians, because he's an excellent musician, but he is such a performer and can command
An
a
audience.
stage and an audience. Like, he had everybody. I mean, he was like communicating and vibing.
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, he got up and like walked up and played his trombone in the balcony.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so impressive to see people who have been doing it for so long and are just so good at it. Like, he was meant to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he has found his purpose in life.
Yeah, because you do, I mean, to truly be a star like that, you do have to have both. You have to have the talent and the ability to perform that way and have that stage presence. And yeah, it's really, really cool when you're able to experience that with a show.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just mostly like a bunch of middle-aged white folk in Indiana, and he had that place just so alive. It was so fun. Made me really miss New Orleans.
Yeah.
It was really fun to get to go with my parents. Like, we all had a great time. And I saw Big Z there.
Oh, nice. Of course you did.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just like, I have to remember to go see more live music.
I know.
'Cause I feel like
It's something we did so much in our youth, and now it's like,
it's just so fun.
you
It's
know.
a shame that it's so expensive. I totally get it, because that's how musicians, the only way they make money anymore.
Yeah,
you know, because they don't have
Yeah.
record sales. But it's a shame.
Yeah.
But it made me wonder. So Brown County Music Center is a seated venue,
Right.
and I am so on the fence about it, because it is like, it's nice to have a seat. I do like that, like the option of being able to sit, but it makes it so awkward.
Yeah.
I feel like when you do, because I do want to get up and dance.
Yeah, when you're trying to groove.
Yeah, because they have a small pit area where it's standing, but it's mostly seated.
Yeah.
And
I know. I
I'm
felt
so on
that
the fence
way
on it.
when we went to see Hall & Oates.
Yeah.
And it was at the Murat Theater, but it was on the theater side, not the Egyptian room, and which is seated. And yeah, I don't know. And some people, you know, it was like 50-50. Like, some of the crowd was just sat the whole time, and like, that's fine. But I mean, they're a groove. And
Heck yeah. And that's what music is supposed to, you know, you shouldn't feel, I hate it, because if you want to stand up, then you feel bad because you're like blocking people behind you.
Know.
And that's the thing. Like, you should be
It's not
free
the opera,
to dance.
though. Like, yeah.
Right. You should be free to get up and dance. That's the point of music.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah, the
so,
seats definitely feel a little constricting when it comes to trying to get down.
Yeah.
But
other than that, it was a blast.
well, good.
So,
I'm glad you had a good time.
yeah.
That's nice.
It was fun.
Speaking of having a good time, I will say what I really miss this time of year. I so miss Yogi's March Madness.
Oh, man. I know. Gosh.
There was
And,
just
like,
something.
The old Yogis.
The old Yogis, yeah. And there was just something about, and for those of you who don't know, this is a bar that we worked in together for a few years together after college. And there's just something about just like being young and not really having any responsibilities. And we would go work at the bar, and all your friends work there, and they're the people that you hang out with when you're not working, and you're all there. You work your shifts. Everybody makes a ton of money because it's March Madness and it's busy. And then you get off work and you just like post up at the bar. And then the days that you're not working, you just come in and everybody day drinks and just sits and watches basketball all day. And Yogi's always did the brackets. And so you could watch your bracket, and it was just so much fun.
It was.
And it was just like 4 days of just like nonsense and drinking and bar food and basketball. And whether IU was in it or not, like it didn't really matter. And it was just such a fun atmosphere. And
it was fun to like you had a plan, but not. Because you'd be like, it's March Madness. What are you doing? Well, I'm going to Yogi's all day.
Yeah.
Like, don't really have a plan outside of that.
Right.
But then you just see what happens.
Yeah.
And hang out. Yeah. Man, I do. I miss Yogi so much.
No.
And it's kind of bittersweet because the building isn't even there anymore.
No.
And sometimes I really wish, like, it was still there so we could just go back and pretend and reminisce. But then at the same time, I'm like, well, maybe I'm glad it's not, because it would just never live up. I mean, there is a new Yogi's. I don't even really consider that, but
no, it's not the same.
Yeah, the good old days.
You know, and then it's like, you know, I'm just like watching basketball games at home, and it's like,
this is so boring.
This is just like, I don't know.
But there's not
the
like a
same.
Yogi's equivalent
No
option in
like,
Bloomington.
where are people going to watch March Madness now?
I don't know. I guess Nick's.
Or does like Gen Z even do that?
I mean, I don't know. They may not.
Is it just a thing of the past? Are people posting
Maybe.
up all day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday somewhere and just watching
I don't
all
think
the games?
so.
And like,
I don't think that exists anymore.
because
At
it
least not
wasn't just,
here.
you know, it wasn't just us. Like it would, like we had people would take off work
Yeah,
and
that's
come,
true.
like people who didn't work in the industry too, like people who worked regular jobs and like, or, you know, regular 9 to 5s, whatever. People would take Thursday and Friday off and like come in, and you know, we had all of our regulars and like everybody would be there all day for 4 days.
Yeah,
you know,
I know it very much had a Cheers vibe that no other bar had in town. Nick's kind of was the other option, I feel like, but
and maybe that's where they are now. I don't
yeah.
know, but it's like, has everyone moved on? Like even the people that like came in that didn't work there, like are they doing that somewhere else? Are the regulars somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. Or has everybody just like moved on?
Yeah.
Like, where's Glass? Where are you?
Alley Bar. I see there sometimes.
I suppose Alley Bar could be it.
But
anyway.
Yeah. R.I.P.
R.I.P. for sure. I know. And now it's like, even if there was a place, like, you know, I have kids and all that, it's not like I can just go and like,
I know, and see,
like,
it was the
drink
nostalgia
and eat
of the
wings
time
for 4 days,
yeah,
like, but
where there was like no responsibilities.
Yeah.
Man.
Well.
Oh my gosh, what we have to talk about is the Julia Reagan article that you sent me. So if y'all listened to a previous episode, I put out one of my grapes was this billboard with Julia Reagan in loving memory. I've seen a couple of them now. R.I.P. It had her picture on it. And then you sent me an article.
Yeah. So my aunt commented on our Instagram and was like, oh, the Reagan family's in the billboard business. And so I just Googled Julia Reagan billboard and all of these things popped up.
Hilarious.
And apparently there's like 300 of them across the country.
Wow.
So she's the matriarch of the Reagan family. And yeah, they're in the billboard business. So, I mean, not to like, you know, get your hopes down about like how much your family loves you, but it's really not about how much your family loves you. It's about whether or not they're in the billboard business.
Yeah. It was a very sweet artitle though.
Yes, it was.
It made me like slightly emotional. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, it was.
What a great relationship they had. Really loved her. But oh man, I was dying. That's a lot of billboards.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man. Well, good for them. What else is going on? I got my uncle came down this weekend and brought all of my grandmother's jewelry. She passed away this year or last year. Oh man, I'm going to have to show you some of it. It is the best stuff. She grew up in New Mexico, so she has like a lot of really awesome like
turquoise
silver and
stuff.
turquoise and just like really cool stuff from her grandmother and her mother and her grandmother. Like all the boxes like smelled like her.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I mean, there's
that stuff.
There's nothing like inherited, and like I don't know if any of it's like worth anything monetarily, but it's so. It's just my style.
Turquoise definitely is.
Oh yeah. But some of it is like exactly my style, stuff I'll wear.
Right.
You know, it's just like, oh man, this is the best. Made me a little emotional, which I wasn't anticipating.
Absolutely.
Like, man, I wish I would have.
You weren't anticipating your grandmother's jewelry making you emotional?
I guess not. I mean, not that I didn't think it would happen, but I just didn't, it just didn't occur to me that looking through it was going to be like, oh, wow. And why it made me emotional is that I wish I would have. She had shown some of it to me over the years, and
you wish
had
you
remarked
had all the backstory on everything.
Yeah, she had remarked that I'm her only granddaughter. She was
Right.
like, I'm glad I have a granddaughter to give this to one day. But yeah, I wish I would have taken more time to like have her tell me about all the individual
Right.
pieces, because some of them are, you know, really old and
Yeah.
have stories to them. But she was good. She had little pieces of paper with a lot of the things
Yeah.
labeled, like who it was from, what era.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
That kind of made my week.
Yeah. I just love anything like old with like a little bit of like history,
Yeah.
especially when it's personal to you. But even if like I didn't know the person, you know, and just like you said, the boxes and opening all the packaging
Yeah.
and smelling everything, and just there's just something special about stuff like that has a history, has a story.
And you think really hard when you do think about like, oh, where has this been? What
Yeah.
has this seen? Like,
Yeah.
what did it, in what time in somebody's life was this like meaningful?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really love that stuff too.
My husband, when he gets me gifts for things, he gets a lot of it from auction and estate sales, jewelry, and it's always just cool because it's like, ooh, like, I wonder, you know.
Yeah. I feel like maybe this is just a nostalgia, but it seems like things were so much more unique and ornate.
They were.
Yeah, like now
and they
things
just,
are
like,
so
better made.
Yeah, things are so like factory produced, and everything's the same and on trend, and
Yeah.
everything before seems to be, you know, so individualized.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Special.
Yeah. I agree.
So, that was fun.
Nice.
That was like a highlight of my month, really.
Yeah, that's fun.
I got my hair cut again.
By yourself? Or
No, by another person.
Okay.
It looks cute up, but I need it to grow out a little bit down. I was giving Mrs. Godwin, who was my elementary gym teacher. For all of you Ellisville Eagles out there, I was giving Mrs. Godwin a little bit, but I'll grow into it. So
Yeah, or it'll grow into itself.
Yeah.
It needs to grow a little bit, is
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep trying to like get these cool girl haircuts that I see on other people.
Yeah.
And then I get them on me and I'm just like, what am I thinking? I'm not cool enough to pull this off. But
If you're doing it, it's cool.
that's right. I have to remember I just said that
Yeah.
at our last recording. Oh man, you really gotta yell it at yourself sometimes.
That's right. It looks cool.
It looks cool. Because you believe it is.
That's right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that is true. If you can rock it out, then
Here's the thing. If you're doing it, it's cool.
it's cool. Yeah.
Okay,
man.
well, I have a mom hack that I need to just tell the world, I think.
Oh yeah, let us know.
Speaking of like sentimental items and things, I am like a very sentimental person, but I also like truly despise like clutter and just like things everywhere,
That's hard.
which puts me in a bit of a predicament sometimes.
Yeah, because you wouldn't expect it
I know.
when you walk into your house.
I know. And, you know, I've been over the years honing and perfecting my craft of being able to preserve things and memories without so much maybe keeping all the things.
Yeah.
And I have figured out, I think, the most efficient way in which to do this. And it really only applies to sort of like paper items, or it can be things as well. You just kind of have to use your best judgment. I made scrapbooks like by hand. Okay. And then that got to be too cumbersome because they were too big. And I was like, what am I going to have? Like
100 of these?
100 of these that might get. So I'm like, okay, I've got to switch to having a photo book made. So that's what I do. And I do them on Shutterfly. And now I really kind of enjoy doing that even more so than I did before with manual scrapbooking, because I can add more like text.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
before, when I would do scrapbooking, sometimes I would hand write like, oh, that we did, on this, we're here and we're doing this, because I really want to preserve the memories. Like, it's not just the pictures, because I don't want my kids to look back and be like, well, I don't even know
I
where
wonder
we
who
are.
that
Or what
is.
are we
Yeah.
doing? Yeah. So I really have liked doing them digitally because I can type, it's much easier to like type out than handwrite. So over time, I've kind of figured out that I can do this with like my kids' drawings and like little
cool
things from, so, you know, like you go to the doctor's office and I used to keep that stuff where it has like their percentiles and their measurements and things that my children have drawn, pictures. I also, for a while, was keeping a notebook of just like funny things my kids said.
That's the best.
Yeah. And so now I have incorporated all of these things into the annual photo album. So I just take a photograph of the pictures. I did it with a bunch of, so like, you know, when people send you Christmas cards every year and they're like, it's photos of their families. I like getting them. I like seeing them, but I'm not the person who's going to keep those cards. I just can't do it.
No.
So I made a collage of the Christmas cards that we received. And if it was a photograph of the family, I did the photograph. If it was just a generic Christmas card, but they wrote a note, I did the inside so that the note is on the collage. And I took a picture of that and I put it in our annual photo album.
Oh, nice.
And there I have all of the pictures and you can read what people wrote in the cards. And it just turned out really nice. Yeah. And if you're somebody who's like me and you want to preserve some of these things and you're not doing like a digital photo album, or if you are but hadn't thought about putting those things in, I urge you to give it a try.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I didn't know you were supposed to keep those.
Keep what?
The ones that people send you.
It's not, I don't think it's you're supposed to, you know.
Yeah,
it's just it's I do enjoy like seeing my friends' kids
over
like
the years.
Over the years, but it's like, also, how often do you really go back to that box and get it out and look at it? But we do look at the photo albums.
Yeah.
So it's just like a nice centralized place to keep everything. So when I get like the stats from the doctor's office, I take a picture of it and I just put all of it into a folder on my phone for that month. And then when I'm making my photo album, you know, I put in photographs of pictures my kids have drawn, photographs of, you know, my husband wrote a really sweet note to my daughter for her 5th birthday in her card. And like, yeah, I could keep those cards, and I do. I have a few from each of their first birthdays that I kept that I'll give to them. But I'm not going to keep cards for their birthdays every year. No, I just can't. It's too much. But I was like, I want to keep this because of this. So I just took a picture of it. It's in the photo album on her birthday page, you know?
Yeah.
So
that's great. Yeah.
If anybody's...
Yeah, I really like the photo book idea, too, because I think about that. I have all of these digital photos.
Right.
But it's like, what do I do with it? Do I make a digital photo album? I guess I could, but that just doesn't have the same feel.
Doesn't hit the same.
Like, you want something physical,
yeah,
but it needs to be somehow organized.
Yeah.
And like, yeah.
And the kids love to look at them. And, you know, we talked about this on another episode too, where I'm just like, what if I died tomorrow?
Yeah.
Then like all those pictures are just like in my Google account and what? Like,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, technically it probably exists, but like what? My husband's going to go in and get all those? No.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, yeah, every year I do the photo book and I try to keep up with it and do it quarterly. Shutterfly saves it for you.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're like me and you're like super type A, like I really like to do it myself and do the layout and do all that stuff myself. But if you're somebody who wants to preserve the memories, but you're like, I don't really care, I don't have time, you can literally upload the photos and just tell Shutterfly to do it for you.
Yeah.
And I think they try to do it as in chronologically as they can based on your photos. And like, it's not going to be perfect, but if you don't care about that, like it's just an easy way to upload the photos, click do it for me, and it'll just make a book for you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I would always wait until they're doing a free unlimited pages, and then you never pay for the extra pages.
Oh, nice.
And that'll save you like $200 on a
Super
book.
hack.
So,
yeah, you made one for all of our friends, and they're awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're somebody who's like, I want to preserve these memories, and then, so at the end of the book, too, I did a page where I typed out like all the funny things that the kids said, you know? I mean, so you can really customize it and like put, you know, even if you have them do it for you, then you can go in and like add a page and like type out whatever you want to do, or, you know, add a little text box to say where you were or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, it's been a really nice way to be able to preserve a lot of that stuff and not have to keep the paper. And even most recently, I've been doing this thing where when my 5-year-old doesn't want to get rid of something, but it's not really something she plays with or uses, I was like, I'm just going to try this. And I was like, what if we take a picture of it and put it in the photo album so that you can always remember it? And
She was like, yeah.
She was like,
Oh.
okay.
Now that's the hack.
So that's what we did. I have a picture of a few random items that we have now been able to donate or get rid of. And you best believe they'll be going in the photo book with the caption, my 5-year-old wanted to remember this.
Yeah. And that'll be fun too when she's older.
Yeah.
To be like, this was really important
This was
to you.
important to you. And like you decided you would get rid of it, but only if we took a picture to commemorate it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyway,
Well, that's
I
cool.
thought I'd put that out there to the people.
Hey, I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Even if you're just a single lady, I'll have to start doing that with my photos.
Yeah.
Just it'll just be all my dog.
That's fine.
I was going through my phone the other day. I was like, good Lord. Just like 100 photos of her sleeping, which is kind of creepy.
Oh.
But she's so cute when she's asleep.
I mean, that's like a mom's phone too. It's just
Yeah.
all your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. What do we got next?
Okay. So we know the Oscars have come and gone.
Yeah. But we are still thinking about it.
We're still thinking about it. I just wanted to bring this up because I just kind of made this realization and it just was so ironic. And, last year we had Barbie and it was almost like the whole idea kind of what the Barbie movie was about. And then Ryan Gosling wins the Oscar.
He didn't win. Did he win?
Didn't he win? Or was he just
No,
nominated?
he was just nominated. But Margot Robbie wasn't even nominated.
She wasn't even no.
And-
America Ferrera was, I think.
The real travesty, though, is that Greta Gerwig wasn't even nominated for director.
Right.
And that seemed like a huge slap in the face. He was nominated, though. I remember he did release a statement that was like, there is no Ken without Barbie.
Yeah,
There
I
is no
remember that.
movie without Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig.
yeah.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
Okay, so that aside, but yeah, essentially in 2024 and 2025, we have 2 movies that come out about how we in this society do not value women, at least a certain type of woman.
Mm-hmm.
And you have almost those sentiments being manifested through what happened at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Right? So you have Barbie, and then you have Ryan Gosling being nominated for Best Supporting Actor. No Greta Gerwig, no Margot Robbie. Yeah, America Ferrera, I think, was nominated, but didn't win. And then you have 2025, we have The Substance, which is essentially about us not valuing women of a certain age. And then you have Demi Moore and Mikey Madison up for the nomination. And again,
Yeah.
younger
by a much younger,
version wins. And
Yeah.
now listen, we know this can't dictate who wins an Oscar. It's just an interesting observation,
Right.
I think. And the irony is unreal.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Mikey Madison didn't deserve it, because I did just watch Anora and she did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
She was really fucking good. And I'm not saying that, I didn't see Oppenheimer.
I didn't see Oppenheimer
the people
either.
that won didn't deserve it either.
No.
But yeah, like you said, you can't deny
Right.
the irony of how the story unfolded for all of that.
I know. It's
Yeah.
wild. It's like, yeah.
It's
here are
art
these-
imitating life.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
life imitating art.
Yeah. I mean, so anyway, I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Oscars will never be... I don't feel like you'll ever watch the Oscars and be like, yeah, everything was right.
No.
But yeah, I did watch Anora, and it was good. I thought the ending was superb.
Yeah.
The acting was great. It was just a lot of yelling. I was tired afterwards.
Yeah. I
My
know.
profound
Well,
takeaway.
And
But
I don't, and I think I said this before in the last episode where it's just like, there wasn't anything particularly profound about it, really.
well, I didn't think so until the end, till the very end, where I feel like, oh, okay. I feel like what the whole movie was about was finally said in that very last scene.
Yeah.
And it was basically that, like, yeah, being a sex worker is very complicated and hard. And my God, what a lifestyle. And I don't think we see enough stories that represent it accurately or hear about it or understand the complexities of it at all. And I think that in that last poignant scene, that all came together. and, you know, how strange relationships are and how women feel like, you know, are you a sex worker because you choose to or because you have to? And
Right.
what do you learn about love and relationships
Right.
from being one? Yeah. So I thought that was the theme of the movie.
Anyway.
So that's my takeaway. Yeah. And you said Conan's being asked back. I didn't hear that.
Yes.
To be the host.
He has been solidified as the Oscar host for 2026.
Yeah.
So I guess he was the man for the job.
They should just have Nikki Glaser host everything.
Yeah, I think so too.
She crushed it at the Golden Globes, and I think they asked her back.
Yeah.
I wonder how much. I don't think they make very much money for doing that. Like, I wonder how much people like Conan get paid, because I feel like it's kind of, you're supposed to do it out of like the honor of doing it.
Right.
You don't really. It's not like a paycheck for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And like certain people, I think it can help solidify their status in their industry. Like someone like Nikki Glaser, who is probably going to have a little bit more respect and like a little bit more visibility now because
Yeah.
of that. Not that she wasn't already, you know, a presence, but
Yeah.
somebody like Conan, it's not doing that for him.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
he's already there.
Yeah, yeah.
They must have thought he did a good job.
I think Nikki Glaser is really good at like pushing the envelope just enough
On
those shows.
I
to, like,
think so too.
It's still really entertaining, but she's not like
Offensive.
Yeah.
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 Speaking of offensive,
Oh, what?
well, should we talk about the Vanity Fair
Oh, yeah.
of it all?
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah. Bring it in.
So, I don't know how many of you watched the Vanity Fair after party. Now, it was streamed on their YouTube channel, I think. It didn't start till like midnight, so I didn't watch
Yeah.
it live. But of course, the internet blew up afterwards. It was hosted by Paige DeSorbo and Hannah Berner from Giggly Squad, and they both are on. Paige is still on Summer House, which we don't really talk about that show because Hollis doesn't watch it, but Hannah used to be on it and she got fired. There's been a lot of controversy around it, honestly. The biggest being their interview with Meg Thee Stallion, where Hannah committed a microaggression against Meg Thee Stallion. And it just felt like something that would be good to talk about because it is such a sensitive thing, especially talking about it as white women when we're not the affected community, but it's something that we need to pay attention to
Yeah.
when it happens. And I think it's one of those things people tend to get defensive about because nobody wants to be labeled a racist.
Right.
Nobody wants to feel like they're racist. But at the same time, I think it's important for us to all have enough self-awareness to know that we all have unconscious bias. We do.
Oh, yeah.
And I think when things like this happen, do I think Hannah was ill-intended in what she said? No. But we have to look at intent versus impact. And it had a huge impact. And there were a lot of Black women coming out talking about it on TikTok. And I think it's important to listen to them and what they have to say about it. And it's important to understand why it was a microaggression.
Yeah, so they were interviewing Meg Thee Stallion. They were talking to her, and Hannah Berner said, "Oh yeah, she's obviously a big fan. You could tell she was fangirling out." And then she was like,
nervous.
"When I want to fight, I listen to your music." And Meg Thee Stallion was like, "Yo, you better," because her music is not coded that way. It's very much like empowering women, like
her music's about being hot and
loving yourself.
Yeah, loving yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think like what her exact words were. It was, "When I listen to your music, it makes me want to fight." And that's when Meg kind of tried to steer it in a different direction and was like, "Oh, you better throw that fighting shit out the window. Like, you listen to me when you want to be a bad bitch, when you want to look hot." Like,
Yeah.
And then she said, "Yeah, when people are talking shit, I say turn on Meg Thee Stallion." Like, she
wasn't listening.
She wasn't picking up on.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand why that's a microaggression, and it's because it perpetuates the angry black female stereotype.
Yeah.
That black women are aggressive, argumentative. Like, it's why did she choose the words when I want to fight someone when her music is not about fighting? Hannah is not. Like, it would be different if Hannah was like a boxer, you know, and she's like, oh, when I'm getting ready for a fight.
And it'd be different if she didn't. It sounded very much like someone who's never listened to her music before, which isn't the case.
Right.
I think she's actually a fan and listens to her music quite often, which makes you feel like, oh man, those stereotypes are so just like deeply embedded in us that we're not even aware of it. Like, even as people who are listening to her music.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And yeah, go on.
Right. And so I just think when things like this happen, it is important for us to pay attention and take note, because we're all capable of a microaggression or a similar situation.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of the black women that were coming out and talking about are like, this is nothing new.
Yeah.
This happens all the time.
And we all commit them all the time.
Right.
You know, unknowingly, because they are, you know, those little things that are ingrained in us that we aren't aware of.
Right.
You
and
know?
By seeing things like this play out on a public stage in front of the entire country is a good opportunity for us to take note of it. And I mean, this is how growth and evolution happens, is by understanding why this was a microaggression and understanding how we can not commit them in the future.
And how to respond. I feel like so much of the issue with this one is, and like it is in most cases when celebrities misspeak, misbehave, there are all kinds of different things. It's mostly about how they respond to it too, you know, like when confronted with like, hey, did you know that you said this and that's not an okay thing to say? And then I feel like that's become most of the focus these days is like, are you accepting responsibility for it and owning it? And how do you move forward?
Right.
Like, I think like that's where, you know, a lot of the criticism came into play.
Right. Unfortunately, the response, I think it left a little to be desired.
Yeah. And I feel like that's something we're struggling with in society in general, is like, what is the right thing to do in this situation? Like, what do we expect of people when something like this happens in public?
Right. And I
don't think we know really.
No, I don't think we do. And I think there, unfortunately, in this industry, you know, the fact that it's these two influencers on the red carpet, the Vanity Fair Oscars after party, and they're interviewing these celebrities. Like, it's not just up to the person. They have all these PR teams. They have all these people in their ear telling them, do this, don't do this. Because, you know, Hannah said nothing about it for like 4 days. And it was like we were kind of waiting to see. And it's like, you can't know if that was her choice or if it was her PR team saying, don't say anything about this. And who knows if they had to like reach out to brand deals and get things approved. I mean, it's like, it's so layered when it comes to these celebrities and stuff that I think it's hard to know. But I think for me, and like, obviously it's not up to us to decide what is sufficient in terms of a statement or an apology, because we're not the affected community. Yeah. But I feel like, it didn't feel like quite enough to me. She did come out and make a statement on her Instagram a few days later, basically saying, I wish I would have used any other word. I'm so sorry to Meg. I realized that even though there was no ill intent, it still had an impact. And I think I would have preferred more of like a dialogue maybe, and more of like an understanding of why it had the impact it had, and even just saying like why it was a microaggression, I think is helpful to people when they're seeing it. And because if you don't understand why, then you can't grow from it and evolve from it. And that's really what we should be striving to do. Like, it's going to take so long for us to unlearn all of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I do feel like if we get into a situation where people are afraid to say anything because they're afraid of being canceled and all of this stuff, then that doesn't help us either.
Yeah.
Because we can't learn and grow if nobody's saying anything. They're still thinking all this stuff. They still are having all of these unconscious biases, but nobody's saying anything because everybody's terrified.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's just a really tough situation. And I'm sure that plays into how people respond too. It's like, who knows, like, how she was being advised and like what she was afraid of to say in her response, because I'm sure a PR team is saying, we don't want to blow this up too much. Don't make it a bigger thing than like it already is by saying too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know.
I feel like public figures are so on the defense now too, because of social media, now there is a platform for society to create consequences for people, because things like microaggressions, you can't really, punish people in the court of law for a microaggression. Right. But people can come for you on social media. Yeah. So there are social consequences that you have to bear. And I feel like everyone's aware of that now, and people are very defensive. Yeah. Now. And it's almost like, I don't know, it's a catch-22. Yeah. And I feel like we're still in the weeds a little bit about like how that all goes down, what's appropriate, what isn't. Right. And like the woke police, are they really doing good? But we do need to confront these things. Right. And like bring it to people's attention and expect them to like respond in a way that is appropriate and we know is sincere. Right. So it's like, how do you toe that line? Right. I don't think.
And like it's even hard to know, like, yeah, okay, so the affected community is the community who should be saying what they feel like is sufficient in terms of response. But at the same time, it's like, who is the actual authority on that, too? And then there's this whole aspect of, like, it's not the Black community's job to, like, educate white people on this stuff. But it's also, like, I think a lot of people don't even know where to start or how to educate themselves. Yeah. And I think a big part of the education for us is seeing things like this play out in the media, seeing how people respond, understanding why it is what it is, and then getting an idea of what that community feels is the appropriate way to address it without putting that expectation on them either. Right. And it really does get convoluted in a way where it's like, yeah, what do we do?
Yeah. And yeah, I think critiquing people, bringing things to people's attention without it being so harsh that people feel like they can't say anything. Right. Or they have to be so careful, or they can't apologize truthfully anymore because they're so, like you said, so afraid to say anything out of their own mouths. Right. That's where it just starts to be like, are we making any progress? Because all these responses are just PR written things. Exactly. So it's like, who knows if we're actually doing any good?
Yeah, like, because in the conversation is where the true growth happens. Yeah. And people are so afraid to have the conversation.
Yeah. So, and yeah, it's like, you have a great platform for that. You have a podcast. Exactly. Where you talk with your best friend about stuff. Exactly. That's what,
And they didn't.
That would have been really cool.
Yes.
If they would have had an episode where they talked about that. Like you said, I'm sure everyone on their team was like, absolutely not. Yeah. But that would have been a pretty boss move for them to be like, let's just talk about it for a second. But
I know. And I haven't seen all the other clips. I guess there were several problematic moments. It wasn't just the Meg Thee Stallion interview. I can't remember who the other person was, but they were interviewing another, I think it was a Black female. And Hannah said, you look like you could dunk a basketball.
Oh, God. Jesus.
And
seriously.
And then she asked, I think it's that, podcast that you listen to, Las Culturistas. The two
with Bo and Yang.
And who's the other person?
Oh my God, I'm forgetting his name.
But they're both gay men, but they're not in a relationship together.
No, they're best friends.
Yeah. And so she asked them if they'd ever hooked up.
Oh God. Yeah, it's just like lame, bad.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're not 17.
No.
You're a
and-
mature woman.
Yeah,
Like,
if you're not sure why that one's problematic is because there's a stereotype that all gay men sleep together.
Yeah.
Just because they're gay men. And it's like, no, they're just friends. They're not in a relationship. Like, you don't just ask them if they've hooked up because they're both gay men.
Right.
And
It just is
dunking
so...
the basketball one should be pretty obvious. But
it's so out of touch. Just like, there's no, I don't know.
and
It's not
there was
the
a
worst
lot-
thing in the world, but it's like there's kind of no excuse for that
No.
shit anymore.
And
It's
I
like,
think,
you should know better.
You know, there was a lot of criticism about why are they hosting the Vanity Fair Oscar party when they clearly didn't do any research.
No,
or
I
any
watched some of
homework.
them. Outside of saying offensive things, they were just bad interviewers too.
Yeah,
Like,
they-
what's your sign? I was like, what?
They were
What?
trying to turn it into a bit.
Yeah.
Everything I feel like with Hannah is a bit, and that works on the podcast because that's what it is. It's a comedy podcast, but that doesn't translate to the red carpet.
Yeah.
And so now there's this whole like argument of why did Vanity Fair have them do this and why weren't they prepared? They have one of the top podcasts in the world.
Yeah.
I think Vanity Fair was trying to bring in that
it's
viewership.
opportunistic. Yeah.
And I saw a lot of that on TikTok as well of we need to bring back real journalism and real journalists on the red carpet. And listen, it's not like they can't also make mistakes. I saw a lot of criticism about that. Like we shouldn't have influencers on the red carpet. And yeah, I mean, I do think it's more complicated than that. I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I think maybe they weren't the right people for the job, but also maybe they could have done some preparation and not had the issues that they had. I don't know. You know, I think
Also, yeah, it seemed a little smug. You could just walk in and you think it takes no preparation to
Right.
like interview that many people and that. I mean, that's the Vanity Fair after party. That's like a huge gig.
it's huge. And yeah, I just feel it was so microaggressions aside, it was so chaotic.
Yeah.
And they were interrupting people, you know, and really, and, you know, Paige has had her moments in the past too. I didn't know about them until this whole thing happened. And then, of course, all these other things start resurfacing. But Hannah really seemed to be the problem on the carpet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it also seemed like Paige was trying to rein her in.
A
and be
little
like,
bit, yeah.
making comments almost about her. Like,
Yeah.
I've never seen her this way before.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah. The whole thing was very uncomfy to watch.
It was. Yeah, for sure. So, I don't know.
Well, and it brings up that idea, too, that we've talked about before of, like, is celebrity moving away from what used to be celebrity and now is influencers who are really people with no training
Yeah.
or just gotten famous for talking on their own show,
Right.
just free will.
Like us.
Yeah. And
famous people
and,
like
you
us.
know, if somebody came to us and was like, we want you to host the Vanity Fair Oscars or Vanity Fair party and interview these people, would we say yes? Yeah, probably. You know what I mean? So I get the opportunistic side of it is that you're just saying yes to everything.
Absolutely not. We would not
No,
say
we
yes.
wouldn't.
Are you kidding me?
But you know, if we were on their trajectory, if our podcast was where their podcast was,
Maybe.
and we were on TV shows and someone, I mean, that's an exciting thing. I get you take the gig.
Yeah.
But you best believe both of us would have prepared our asses off
yes,
for it.
Absolutely.
But this concept that like people think that first, I guess, being an interviewer isn't a skill you hone or that it takes work.
Yeah.
That it's a really
false.
difficult thing to do. And yeah, just it's interesting that like the way celebrity is shifting and for what reason. I mean, the Kardashians are a great example. Why are they so famous? That's like, you know, a common conversation.
Yeah.
They're famous for being famous, not for anything else.
Right.
And being business people, I guess.
Well, and yeah, I don't know. But then I also saw some on the flip side of people saying, you know, Hannah actually has interview experience. She interviewed people on her podcast that she had before they had Giggly Squad, which I never listened to that. I think I listened to it one time when she had somebody on that I wanted to listen to. It was called Burning in Hell, and it was an interview style podcast, but it's also like interviewing someone on your own podcast. It's somebody that you probably have prepared for the episode.
Yeah.
And she was feel like having a lot of like comedians and stuff on, and she's you know what I mean? So it's a different
You set
banter.
the tone.
You're setting the tone, and it's your own show, is way different than interviewing an A-list celebrity that you've never met on the red carpet on national television in front of 400 million people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's different. Yes, live.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it just seemed like, she was ill prepared, and just maybe they were not the right people for that job. And
I also really wanted to hear kind of a conversation about her take that wasn't like the written statement you get,
right?
Like the obligatory statement you get on Instagram, because I am so curious about her being a stand-up, where she falls in that camp, because I feel like it's very common. You know, I follow a lot of comedians, I watch a lot of stand-up, I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts, and you know, there is kind of a split rift between comedians, especially, who are like, I should be able to say whatever I want. People are way too judgmental. People take way too much offense to things. It was just a joke. I wonder how she truly feels about it.
Yeah.
If she thinks people are being overreactive because, hey, I was making a joke. I'm a stand-up. Like, that's what I do. It wasn't a joke. I think and it's also, you're not a stand-up right now.
Exactly.
You're being an interviewer.
This isn't a bit. It's an interview.
Yeah.
It wasn't a joke.
I don't want to assume that's how she feels.
Right. No, I know.
But that is something I think about a lot, too, when I consume comedy, is like people's take on that. And a lot of, like, do I find racist humor funny? Do I not?
Yeah.
Are there times when it is tactfully done and, you know, it's not full of stereotypes, it's not bigoted? Or is it, no, it's just not acceptable ever across the board?
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, I hear a lot of different perspectives on it, and it is hard to come to and not just racist humor, you know, homophobic humor, and not blatantly homophobic or racist, but underlying.
I think it really depends on the context, the comedian, and the audience.
Yeah, it's very nuanced.
It's very nuanced. And I think there are certain things that maybe black comedians are allowed to
100%
to joke about, and like we are absolutely not as white people. And
it's also who's the butt of the joke, which I think is misconstrued in humor a lot.
Yeah.
That a lot of people think making observations in a joke form about things like stereotypes and race, the butt of the joke is always the marginalized group, but that's not the case. A lot of the times they're making fun of the absurdity of racism.
Right.
Which is hard to do. And most people who do it don't do it well, and then it's not funny.
Right.
And it comes off as mean-spirited and bigoted.
Right.
So I think it's really hard to be able to do it and pull it off. It's not impossible.
Well, and I think when we're talking about that, it's like, how can we do that in a way that's not mean-spirited and bigoted if we can't even acknowledge our own unconscious biases, and we are having these microaggressive situations towards black people in an interview.
Yeah.
If that's happening, then absolutely no, we shouldn't ever be joking about it, because it's real. And it's happening in real life.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the big question is, does comedy and humor like that perpetuate things?
Yes.
In reality? And I think it does.
I think it does too. And I think we're just not anywhere we need to be able to justify that kind of humor, I don't think. And I don't know.
Yeah, again, that's the thing. It's like, I think there's a lot of ways to be funny where that doesn't
absolutely
have to happen. And yeah. And
really, timing is everything with comedy.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, it is tough because now too, and you and I have talked about this, and we talked about this in our book club a little bit too, but it's like, what does it truly mean to be an ally? How, as you know, a middle-aged, essentially white woman, like, how can I be the best ally? And like, what does that truly mean? And you know, I think it starts with seeing things like this and truly understanding why it's a problem, which I feel like I do. I feel like there's so many people out there still that watched that and don't understand why what she said was a problem.
Yeah.
They don't even maybe know that there's an angry black woman stereotype and that it's being perpetuated all the time, and they don't even see that or understand that. So I think that's the first step, is having enough education about these things to be able to understand it. And I think a big part too is just being self-aware enough to know that I have unconscious bias. We all do. And it's going to take a really, really long time to unlearn all these things, but you've got to be putting some work in.
Yeah. And also confronting it and accepting that it happened, you did it, doesn't make you a bad person.
Right.
It's not
allowing
you.
grace,
Absolutely.
allowing
yeah.
some grace for
you
situations.
Can say, hey,
yeah.
shit, I did that. I'm going to do better. I'm
Right.
going to accept that, educate myself, and move on
Right.
effectively.
And we talked a lot about it offline, and it is something that we talked about. Like I said, even in our book club, it just sparked a lot of conversations about what it means to be an ally, how it can be difficult to navigate it as white people. And it's like, we don't want to say the wrong thing, but we also like, we want to grow, we want to evolve, we want to be the best ally that we can be. And how do we do that? And
Yeah.
so anyway, you know, if you're somebody who struggles with that too, it's not just you.
Yeah.
We're all
working through it together.
We're all working through it together.
Yeah, but hopefully having conversations with your friends about it is happening.
Yeah.
You know, and like,
and that's
kind of the point of the show is that like, yeah, these things happen in pop culture, and the conversations that you have with your friends about them that help you understand how to live your life.
Right.
You know, I think that's the point of pop culture.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
At least to me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the point of talking about it.
Yeah.
And trying to
navigate how to make sense of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
cool.
What else do we have? Grapes and gripes?
Yeah, let's get into grapes and gripes.
Okay.
We can talk about.
We can take it to a lighter note.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
Okay. So I have 2 gripes.
Okay.
The first one, I don't know if this is so much a gripe as it is just sort of a PSA. I was walking to my car the other day in a parking lot, and as I was walking past a car, the door to the car opened, and the amount of cologne that this man was wearing for him to open the door of his car, and I was enveloped in it. And I was passing his car 20 feet away.
20 feet?
Yes.
Whoa.
And I feel like I run into this quite frequently, where you will pass a man in the grocery store, or you're seated next to a man on a plane. I've even gotten in an Uber. It's like,
Ubers for sure.
Men, this is a you problem. I'm sorry. I have almost never walked past a woman in a grocery store or sat next to a woman on a plane and been like, oh my God. Almost never. Maybe once.
Maybe a grandma here and there.
Yes. But it's like,
do you think it's the amount? Like, are they doing too many spritzes?
It's the amount.
Or do you think it's the strength
No,
of that?
it is the amount.
Yeah.
It's the amount. You do not need that much. And massive amounts of cologne are not the answer to a pungent musk. It just is not the answer.
Yeah, I'm sure, man, they would love to know that. It's too bad you can't say that to somebody and without them getting pissed off, because I bet they have no idea.
I would have
guys
absolutely been asphyxiated in that man's car.
Yeah, you think
there is no way.
That's the thing with perfume with me. I feel like if I put on 2 spritzes,
it makes me sick.
Yeah,
yes.
It gives me a headache.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do not understand it. I can't make sense of it. Stop doing it. It's too much.
Yeah, and like just Axe body spray, is that still a thing? Because
No,
remember that
was
was
a strong
that was always the culprit.
But it was a strong scent. But it also is because they're like, shh.
Yeah. Well,
like spraying their entire body with it when they get out of the shower.
That's
and
like body spray is dangerous. Like cologne comes in like a pump.
It's concentrated.
Yeah.
It is meant for a dab.
Right.
You're not supposed to be spraying it all over your body.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. And yeah, like the body spray, I don't know what we were thinking there. And remember the Bodman fantasy.
Hot bod.
Hot.
Nice
I like
bod.
your bod.
I want your bod. I remember when I worked at Kmart. I worked in the jewelry counter at Kmart in high school for a long time.
Why have we not told that story?
It'll come up. We'll remember it for next time. But yeah, I worked at the jewelry counter for a long time. The most boring moments of my life. God, nobody was
sure.
buying jewelry at Kmart, but
You don't say.
no, surprisingly enough, not a lot of jewelry sales.
They were stealing it.
Yeah, for sure. But the cologne racks and perfume racks were in that section, and I would have to like straighten those aisles, and the Stetson and the body spray, the men's body spray. Oh my God, you could smell it like through the packaging.
Yeah.
It was insane. I mean,
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just like being manufactured at like more potent rates, because like
I don't know.
yeah,
But
because it stood out.
there is definitely, I have smelled a man that has the appropriate smell.
Oh yeah, and when it's
like,
when it hits, when it's right, it's so good.
yeah. So
but when it's
not
overdone,
the cologne.
yeah,
It's user error.
it's the execution,
Operator error for sure. So, anywho, let that be a word to the wise. Do not
To all
drown
our male
yourself in
listeners.
your cologne. My second gripe, and this one I just will never understand. Just do not do this. This is another PSA. Don't do this. When you're in a public restroom and somebody tries the door, okay?
yeah.
Fine. Then they try it again. Then they knock or are like, hello? It's like, don't make me answer you. If you try the door and it's locked, just wait.
Yeah, like, is this accidentally locked out of
Yeah.
nowhere?
And even if it is, you're going to bust the door down?
Yeah,
Even
how much time are they giving in between these knocks? In the try and the
Yesterday, I was at Newfields, which is the IMA, and I'm in the bathroom with my 5-year-old, and it's a single, stall or whatever. Somebody, jingle, jingle. Okay. 3 seconds, jingle, jingle again. 3 seconds, knock. Hello? I was like, just a minute. Like, don't make me answer you.
Yeah.
I hate that. It's like,
and it's like, what do you say? Somebody's in here.
right.
Obviously.
Clearly, somebody, it's occupado. Like, stop. I mean, honestly, I just don't understand it.
And that's funny because I would move to the next stall before because there's multiple stalls.
No, it's a single.
Oh, it was a single.
It's a single bathroom.
Oh, I was picturing like a bathroom with multiple stalls.
No,
a
a single bathroom where you lock the door. It's like, I have never done that in my life. I have walked up, tried the door, and like, it's locked. On rare occasions, I have waited long enough to where I've been like, did I just not turn it right?
Yeah.
And then try it again. I'm like, nope, definitely locked, And
Yeah.
then I wait. I would never force somebody to say something to me while they're in the bathroom. Like, what is that? I don't understand.
Yeah.
And
maybe.
And what are you going to do if so no one answers you? So then what? You're going to kick the door in? What are you gaining from
You
it?
go and find a worker. Could you please unlock this door?
God. I do have a grape. My grape is going to anything with a crust.
Oh, yeah.
I have yet to meet a crust I didn't like.
I do love a crust, so you're not a Uncrustables gal, I take it.
Nope. I love a crust. Don't you cut the crust off my sandwich. I love a pizza crust. I love a sandwich crust. I love a bread crust. I love a pie crust. I love a quiche crust.
Oh, pie crust
Tart.
is the money. Yeah, I also
Hot
eat my
Pocket.
pizza bones, too.
Oh, yeah. For sure. If it's got a crust, I'm in like Flynn.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's just like you don't need breadsticks when you got the crust.
oh, hell no.
Like
yeah.
people who
I mean,
eat
I
pizza.
still- I still will, but
Yeah, I mean, obviously I will dabble, but I think people who don't eat the crust but then eat breadsticks, I'm like, it's the same thing, right?
right. Yeah. Delicious.
It's just a breadstick on the ring of your pizza.
yeah.
But- Oh, no.
As soon as we're done editing, we'll be getting some crusts and a
Hell
beverage.
yeah. In crusty. Two crusty gals.
But then on the flip side, a crust outside of the category of food, not great.
Pretty gross, actually.
Yeah, anything crusty.
No, I don't want to be crusty.
No.
No.
So that exists only in the food world.
It's interesting. Huh. Good observation.
That's what I'm here for.
Life's funny. All right, I'll do 2 upbeat grapes and gripes. I'll save my controversial gripe for another episode.
We've been controversial enough.
So my gripe is to wind chimes.
No.
I don't like a wind chime. You know what I think it is?
I hate a pleasant sound.
Well, most of them aren't pleasant. That's the problem. And you know what it is? It's wind chimes at night that really I don't like.
Yeah, really
because
grind your
I was
ears.
walking my dog at night and there was a wind chime in the dark, and I was like, this gives me the creeps.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a very ominous
like Texas
sounding.
Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't like it. And then in the daytime, it's just like, I mean, do we need it?
It's also very Twister.
Yes. Like
It's giving Twister.
Like something bad is a coming.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care for it in the daytime or the night. In the daytime, it's just like, do we need this sound?
Yeah.
This extra, just like, and I mean, some of them, have I heard a pleasant wind chime? Sure. I have. They've existed where I've been like, that's nice. But do I need it incessantly? Because that's the thing. It's just a going 24/7.
Yeah, the slightest breeze.
Right.
Here we
like,
are.
Don't I just want to hear the birds chirping or like, I don't know, my neighbor yelling
There's
instead?
something to be said for the birds in the morning, too.
I mean, the birds can kick rocks also, but I mean, just nature would be fine. It's, you know what it's giving? It's giving the guy who carries his speaker around all the time playing music. Like, I'm sorry, sir. You don't get to choose the soundtrack for everyone's life.
You don't get to choose nature's soundtrack.
No, get out of here. So, yeah, wind chimes. If I could, I'll leave them. Take it or leave it, I'll leave it.
Yeah.
So there's that. My grape goes out to, okay, so the other morning, it was frosty.
Mm-hmm.
It hadn't been for a long time. And there is nothing more satisfying than stepping on frosty, crunchy grass.
Ooh, the ASMR
Oh,
of
my
it.
God. It's so good. Especially when it's like super frosty, hasn't even begun to melt yet. And you're just like,
very solid.
oh,
Yeah.
so good. Same with like a real nice, crunchy, crispy, crusty leaf.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. David Spade, one of the most underrated comedians. He is great on it.
I mean, Joe Dirt is pretty primo.
Oh, underrated. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
He's really hilarious.
Yeah.
He doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah, I guess. Didn't he, though?
I
I thought he just kind of went away. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's
peaked
famous.
for sure.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
don't think he gets his flowers like he should.
Yeah, maybe
for
not.
being. I mean, he was famous for Joe Dirt, but I don't think he's
well, he was on, what was that show?
Just Shoot Me.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
That's
great
right. That was like
show.
the pinnacle of his success.
Yeah. Well,
I
and
feel
Tommy
like.
Boy.
Well, yeah, see, I'm not as big on Tommy Boy as you.
What?
Yeah.
How did I not know
We
this about
talked
you?
about this. Yes.
You don't think Tommy Boy is hysterical?
It's one of those kind of SNL like esque kind of things that I don't know. I never really.
Man. God, it's like one of my all time. It's like so much of my personality.
Yeah.
Tommy Boy and Dumb and Dumber.
Dumb and Dumber I love, and Caddyshack, but those are really those are really the only two. All of those other like really famous comedy movies from that era, not so much for me.
Yeah. Well, anyways, the point of bringing him up was that he's hysterical on Instagram. I don't know if he's still active, but especially like through the pandemic, he would just like film video of him talking over stuff and around LA. And he had this bit with crunchy leaves where he would like, and it's so stupid and basic, but it was hilarious for some reason about him just like finding good leaves to step on and the crunch and like, and then like rating them.
Nice.
Is a great bit.
Well, and it's like the more you do it, the funnier it gets.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It's so relatable.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Anyway.
All right.
All right. That concludes our episode.
Check you later.
Bye.